Hi, this is Synthchaser from Synthchaser.com. In our last video we were working on this Oberheim Four Voice that a customer said he had restored by another tech but was still having issues with. We made some fixes to the programmer which took care of the stuck-on SEM3 that the customer had demoed in his video. But we haven't yet addressed the issues with the key contacts that was also apparent from his video, or the other problems that the customer had reported. So let's pick up where we left off. To get to the key contacts to clean them, and also to the underside of the key bed to repair the fact that it's just wiggling around in here, and then also replace some of these loose nuts I found in the bottom of the case, we're going to have to pull the chassis from the Tolex case that it comes in. So here we have the chassis pulled from the Tolex enclosure. Basically there's a metal plate to which a back and some other frames are bolted on, and that provides little racks for the SEM and other modules to screw into, and also the key bed fits in there secured by 4 screws. Now the key bed is up on these little extensions so it can reach up higher, and these were loose, and that was what was causing the wiggling back and forth of the key bed. And here's the key bed flipped over. So this is a matrix style arrangement. So you see the little diodes that arrange these keys into a switch matrix, and there's a couple CMOS chips here that help with that process. The bus bar here looks pretty tarnished, so I'm going to give it a good cleaning as well as the key contacts. This is the connector that goes to the keyboard electronics board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little extensions off so I can service this more easily, clean the key contacts, and then put everything back together, get it back in the chassis, and get the chassis into the Tolex enclosure. But I think it goes without saying that this is one of the more difficult synthesizers from the standpoint of getting to the key contacts and bus bars to adjust them. Of all the vintage synthesizers out there, this would be a real pain in the butt to have to do on the road. Also over here looks like one of the little insulators that kind of links up these 2 bus bars to keep them from touching has come off, and this upper B isn't going to be making any sound. So for the next problem, the customer had reported that the pulse wave was dead on one of the oscillators on SEM4. And I tested it out, and it seemed to be working fine. So I was going to make a little video to show the customer, you know, this is what I'm doing to test it out. Were you doing something different than me, or what? And as I was testing it out, it actually failed again, and it saved the hassle of troubleshooting, because it became very obvious what the problem was when it failed. So I'm looking at SEM4, and I'm not seeing any problem with the pulse. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the same thing that you are. So here's VCO1, sawtooth, and then pulse. We'll do VCO2, saw, and pulse. Pot's scratchy here. Very scratchy. It wasn't scratchy like this a second ago. Ah, there we go. Go. So there is a problem, and I just troubleshot it for you right in front of you there. It's the pulse width pot, so that needs cleaning. So that's not the only pot that's dirty in this synthesizer. There's a lot of dirty pots, particularly for a restored synthesizer. And they're really hard to miss, and they're really in your face. So we're going to need to go through and check these pretty closely. So here's the output mixer module removed from the synthesizer. The back side here we can see the pots, and we could try to spray something in there to clean it, and it may work or it may not work. The only thing for certain is we're going to have a greasy mess on our circuit board here. So what I'm going to do is actually remove these pots from the circuit board, disassemble them and clean them, and then put everything back together. And a pro tip for people working on the older Oberheims that tug on these knobs and they never seem to come off. Well, that's because they're collet knobs. So you have to pop this little cap here, and then you can release the collet and get the knob off. So there's a special little tool here that goes onto this collet, and then you can just get the knob off. And the circuit board's hiding some really ugly work there. So here's one of the pots opened up, and this particular one doesn't look too dirty, but what we're going to do is we're going to clean it, and we're going to clean out all the old lubricant, re-lubricate it, and put it back together. And then we're going to test it on the oscilloscope to make sure it's good before we solder it back into place. So just for reference, so you can see what a scratchy pot looks like on the oscilloscope, I have the pot hooked up here to just a 9-volt battery. This is the one for the channel 4, SEM4 volume. And you can see there on the oscilloscope that kind of static there as I turn the knob. The more I move it, the less it seems to be showing up. But that would cause a staticky noise in your output when you're listening to it. So I'm going to disassemble this pot, clean it, and we'll take another look at it on the oscilloscope once it's clean. And here's that same pot again once it's been cleaned. And actually now I'm able to turn it without it being so stiff. I can actually change my time per division here so we can see it a little closer there. And you see that there's no dropouts there, no static looking stuff. So if there's no white noise on the scope, we're probably not going to hear white noise when we turn the pot in the synthesizer. So here with the output module back in, we can go back to the volume level for SEM4. And it's not scratchy anymore. So now we'll do the same for the pulse width pot on the SEM4. So because it would be quite a task to get this board out, because basically I'd need to remove all of these collet knobs to get to this pot board out, to desolder and remove this pulse width pot, I want to make sure that that's the problem. And while it looked like the problem was caused by turning this knob, what I've done is I've clipped on here to where the wiper of this pot comes up to the SEM synthesizer board. And it actually turns out that the pot is not dirty, and the problem, the cutting in and out, is happening while that pot value is stable. So there's some other intermittent issue here in the SEM that I'm going to have to troubleshoot and find in order to repair this pulse width problem. So here I've removed SEM4 from the synthesizer. All I had to do was unscrew the 4 screws from the panel, disconnect the Molex connectors from the back, and it comes right out. This board is the synthesizer board. It has the analog circuitry on it. And to get to the pots and switches, we'll remove this board from the sandwich by unscrewing 3 screws there, and then this board will just separate from the board beneath with the pots and switches. Here's a look at the back side of the pot board. There are a couple special pots here. This is the 2 here for the oscillators, the frequency for the oscillators. These are vernier pots, so there's a knob down here which gives you a coarse adjustment, and another knob here which gives you a fine adjustment. However, it's just one pot. It's not a dual pot. And this pot here looks a little different because it's got a switch on it. And these pots also look a little different because they have a center detent. So like here, in between the saw and pulse, there's like a little spot where it stops. So I tracked the problem down to the op amp that converts from the sawtooth to the pulse waveform. And there's 2 op amps in that circuit, and seemed to be the problem showed up in between stages of that. So it was a little difficult to see which stage was causing it. So I just pulled both op amps and replaced them. And now I've recalibrated the pulse width trimmer here. And it's been rock solid since I made the change. And with this, we've fixed all the customer concerns. I'm still going to go through the synthesizer and verify all the functionality, the tuning, and the calibration before it goes home to its owner. I hope you found this video an interesting look inside the Oberheim Four Voice. I'm Synthchaser from synthchaser.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.